It seems like we're getting more people in, and I absolutely want to thank everybody for coming in. And I am going to hold us to a 10 o'clock start because I think we have a lot of good information, and hopefully you have a lot of questions. The format is for an hour, but I did open up the Zoom meeting for an hour and a half just in case our question and answer goes beyond that. Okay, so I see a lot of people checking in. Hey, Scott. We're going to ask that everybody start off in mute. Our speakers will come on and then they will do their presentations. We will have segment in between each one, in between Rich and Jeff, to do Q&A. But I just want to start off by saying Happy Earth Day. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but this is probably one of the things I enjoyed more when I was in school was Earth Day, all the projects we had to do. So I'm sure parents are just having great time with their kids today, doing all those special things at home. They get to the luxury of seeing their kids at their best, like we see them every day, right? But I want to thank you for taking time to check in. Our center's goal for these emergency ops meetings are creating a supporting environment that provides a platform for us to support each other, to share ideas, to build relationships and collaborate. And we've been doing that in the past. And there is nothing more important than right now in this COVID-19 to continue that practice. So we thank you guys for joining in today. You drive the conversation. Our board members drive the conversation. And as we've been checking in, there's been a lot of questions as it relates to how do we all get back into the schools. Everybody's thinking about that. And so we thought we would just provide this time for us to get some perspectives on that. One perspective will be local, and that will be with our facilities executive director, Richard Vela. He's known throughout the state, definitely locally. I can give Rich lots of props on that. He's going to step up in a minute and he's going to talk about that. And then we're also very, very happy to have Jeff Caldwell, who's from the Texas School Safety Center, specifically in the readiness group. And he will be able to share some perspectives with us on reviewing of the guidance documents that are out there, the assistance that is coming from the Texas Safety Center, and the information that they have. And he will walk us through some of those plans. We're really excited with Rich because with the HCDE, we do have schools. A lot of you are familiar with the behavior schools. We have our Head Start schools. We have administrative support buildings. We have 2 admin buildings. We have a lot of buildings around the area that we're responsible for. And we have warehouse. Okay, so there's a lot of different perspectives that I thought that Rich could share with us today. So before I do that, and I'm in my share screen mode, this is how we're going to be breaking down the day. I mean, not the day, but the hour into this area. So Rich is going to come up first, and he's going to give us his perspective on that. I'm going to stop sharing for now, Rich. I'm going to turn it over to you so we can see your lovely face, and then you can share what you need to share. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Richard Vela.
Thank you, Janice. And good morning to everyone. Glad that everyone can be with us today on this Zoom meeting. It is a little bit different, of course, with everyone being at home or in other areas of coming in with the Zoom meeting. We are sitting in unprecedented times right now. It is much different than we were when we were seeing ourselves face to face and going to work daily. We've had to make some adjustments with regards to schools. And I would like to start off by talking a little bit about what our future holds and what we're anticipating doing in the future, and then kind of going from there. Basically, just kind of to let you know that you know, when you're off this amount of time, you start thinking about what you're going to do in order to start school back. And of course, with right now with the Governor Abbott changing the schools to not coming back to the end of the year, now we have to start looking at what happens when August rolls around. And that happens for of course, all of your school districts and of course, as well as HCDE. Right now, we're working to determine some procedures and protocols on how that looks in the future. We are working with a lot of our vendors that we have through our Choice Partners contracts, through our purchasing cooperative at Harris County Department of Education. And I'm sure some of you have used some of our contracts as well. There are many vendors out there that are trying to get these products in that are needed as soon as possible. Masks, there's sanitizers, the gloves. And then, of course, there's something that I think that everyone should maybe consider. And well, two things. One of which is, there's going to have to be some temperature guns that I think that we're going to have to start looking at when people come back to work, and how that looks in the future. I'm not real sure yet as far as how that's going to look. We're going to start training people on how to take people's temperature and who decides whose temperature is above a certain amount and where their symptoms are before we send them home, in order to keep COVID down. There's so many talks about this thing coming a second wave in the future in the wintertime. And that worries me as well. Now, one thing that I think that I'm going to be considering for all of our schools and all of our Head Starts is air purifying with HEPA. And of course, there's products out there that they have. It's called Aeromax. This is one of our vendors, Butler Business Solutions, has his products. And I think it's something that it would be good for all of our districts if we have the opportunity to clean and have air purifier as well. We're considering all of our certain areas or distinct areas to have hand sanitizers put up, the dispensers. Those are going to be important to as well. And then, of course, your cleaning. That's going to be important. That I think is really, how are you going to do your cleaning in the future with your custodial staff? I will tell you right now that we have had to have some staff members go into the buildings, and some of them are still having to do some paper packets for students that we serve for our ABS schools and our High Point schools. And what we're doing currently right now is if we have someone who goes in, we have a sanitizing crew that comes in and cleans, and I'll give you some products that we use. And they come in and clean the building or clean the area. We try to mitigate the area to a certain spot that they come in, so we know we're not cleaning the entire building. We clean, they come in. If they're working for a couple hours or whatever it is and they leave, we come back the next day and we sanitize again. We're continuously doing this in order to keep our workers safe from COVID, and it's been working really well for us. It's more of a schedule part for us, but it's doing a great job, and our staff has really just stepped up to the plate. I know some people may be concerned about that, maybe some of your staff or what y'all are doing. But we're ensuring them, we're giving them the information, we're giving them the gloves, the mask, they got the hand sanitizer, they're doing everything they can, and they alert us if there's anything that they feel like that they can't come in and do, then we're working around that. We're also rotating shifts with our custodians so that not the same people are coming in all the time. And Julia and Janice can know that we also are only limiting the amount of time that they come into the building. We're only giving them a certain amount of time to get there and get done and get out. And that's just to help keep them safe, and it helps keep our staff safe as well. So let me tell you how that we're doing this as far as doing the cleaning's concerned. We do have a staff. We'll come in and we will use the wand method. Basically, it's a mist. We're using a product called mineral electrolyte packs, basically, and those packs are basically those that mist all over the entire building. Let me give you the information on that, the name of that. It's made by Fulson, and it's a full pro cleaner disinfectant. Basically, it's like a mineral pack. They use this to clean, sanitize all the areas in the entire building. Basically, right now we come in and do that one time, and then we come back with some different products afterwards. and we use that. We're using a germicidal cleaner as well by Full Pro. We're also using a cleaner disinfectant called Fulson. That's made by Full Pro, and we're using a Triple S disinfectant deodorant spray. Now I have these products, the cut sheets. We get those from High Point Sanitary Solution, which is another one of our choice vendors. They are very good about having that stuff and having the product in stock, and we have not had a problem with any of this. It's very reasonable as far as pricing. We've had some training with those individuals, and I know that there's other products out there. There's other companies out there. There's another company called Germ Blast. It's on one of our choice vendors, and Germ Blast has done some testing for us, and it's worked out really well. They have really nice reports. If you've not heard about Germ Blast, they are on our contracts as well. But right now,
Richard,
currently,
you're
this
going to
is
make
what
those
we're using.
available?
Yes.
Are you going to make those products available
Yes,
to me?
I do have those
available.
I'm gonna send these to you. Yes, ma'am. I'll send these out to you, and then y'all can see the cut sheets and what the product and what's it about and how it's used and what it's for. And guys, we're not cleaning just wiping and going. We're actually cleaning doors, phones, the computer tops. This stuff is not gonna harm anyone. It's very friendly, user friendly, as far as not really high potent as far as the smell. But our custodians like to use it. They use the hot spots everywhere they can. They wipe your desk off where they can. And of course, this is just in addition to the misting that we use. Now the misting leaves a film, somewhat of a little film over the top of the area, but it does kill the HNN1, and it does kill 99% of that. So I would highly recommend this. We've had really good luck with this, and we're very pleased with this. So these are these products are available from High Point, which is a great company that we've used in the past, and I've known them for many years and have done business with them for years. Again, going back to the future of cleaning your buildings, I think that it's going to be important. And I can't stress enough that right now is a great opportune time for each and every one of you to kind of look at your protocols and your procedures and how that's going to look in the future, and maybe get with your superintendents or assistant superintendents and visit with them and start setting some of those policies up. And that may need to be a policy that's done through TASB or something. I'm not sure. That's AOG, basically, or Administrative Office Guidelines policy. Maybe that's how that works. So I think that it's a great opportune time right now for all of us to sit back a little bit and look at this and try to see if we can help each other and maybe pass along some of your ideas to each and every one of us, and we can all pass our ideas to you, and hopefully we can all come together and overcome this pandemic. I think it's going to be important that we look at what's going to happen in the future for schools, and then of course your stadiums as well, your basketball gyms, that not just your classrooms, all those other areas, your concession stands, your field houses. The locker rooms for the kids. That's also going to need to be addressed at some point here and somehow. Although HCD doesn't have that, I've come from school districts that had all these things, and we had to think about each and every one of these. Your buses, what are you going to do with buses as far as cleaning as well? I mean, I think we're going to be I guess you could say that, parents are going to be really questioning districts and all of us about, what are we going to do to ensure that the kids are safe when schools come back in session. And I think you're going to play a big part of that as far as ensuring that you've done everything you can to make sure that the kids are safe and that we are back to somewhat of a normal state. So anyway, I do appreciate your time and listening to me. I'll leave my mic open, and Janice, you can I guess they can unmute themselves. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to entertain any questions. And if I don't know the answers to any of them, I'll certainly try to find those answers and get back with each and every one of you. I would like to, before we do that, I will give you my email address. If you want to write that down, you can email me. I'm always, and I will also give you my personal cell phone if you want to call me as well. I don't have a problem with that. My phone stays on me 24/7. My email address is rvella@hcde-texas.org. My cell phone number is 281-723-1783. The only time I really don't ever answer the phone is if I'm in a meeting or something, and I try to respond back to you and let you know I'll call you back. So I do, again, appreciate your time. I hope that some of this information was important to you or informative to you. And of course, we are still working and trying to create some new ideas and what's it going to look like in the future. And be glad to share those to you at any point in time. Thank you, Janice.
Okay, thank you, Rich. So guys, at this time, if you do have a specific question, I know it was raised about, first of all, getting the notes from Rich. We're going to get those out. We're going to send those to you in an email with the survey that we would love for you to fill out at the end of this bill as well. And also, I'm recording this session. This is my first time recording a Zoom. So once it finishes, it will download, and I will send you the link to how you can access that as well. But does anyone have specific questions for Rich at this time before we go to our next segment? Okay. I will take that as no. And Rich, we did post in our Zoom chat your email address and your cell number. So that's out there for you guys to get, and I will also include that on in our email distribution. Thanks, Rich. Flexibility, as we found out with COVID-19, is the key to this whole thing, right? Being flexible and being able to get that out. It just popped up. I know Julia shared with me and shared with our team that at 3 o'clock this afternoon, there's going to be a teleconference for Harris County Emergency Management, where they're going to talk about the need for masks. They're requiring people to wear masks around Harris County and mandatory. And so there's a lot of things that are going to be changing moment to moment and day to day. One thing that has had changes is with our Texas School Safety Center. There's a readiness center is up and moving, and Jeff Caldwell is that person, and they are posting a lot of great information on COVID-19 on their site. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to kind of go through where we stand at the state of Texas, what that perspective is, what type of guidance he can provide us, and I'll let you have it, Jeff.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate being here with all of y'all today. Just want to start out by saying, we just have formed our school readiness division, but we were able to bring in a really great array of folks into this group. And so we have a lot of really unique experience and just a vast amount of experience in different areas. We have folks that are from law enforcement, emergency management, fire, medical background, environmental health background, emergency management. So it's a really, really diverse team that is with a lot of different experiences. And throughout the COVID-19, we've been watching what's going on, creating some content, posting things. I'll go over some of that stuff with you guys. As you said, Janice, this is a really complicated and ever-changing and moving situation. And so when we start talking about recovery and getting back to school, what we find is that's a really, really complicated topic because it's changing so much, and what we know and what we don't know about the COVID-19 disease keeps changing. And so as we've gone through and thought what the processes may look like, what some of the considerations for school districts might be, those things are topics and issues that we're going to bring forward. I do want to just tell everybody our information is never intended to go against CDC guidelines, Department of State Health Services guidelines, or even your local health authority. What we try to do is take a lot of that information, the research, what's been talked about, and try to drill that down to specific needs for schools, specific resources for schools. And so that's what our goal has been over and over again. As we start looking at this, one of the things that we look at as we start looking at recovery and getting schools back to work or back to in session is that this gets really, really complicated. And Ray had said this earlier, and I'll probably echo several things that he said. We really anticipate this coming in waves. And we see, they talk about another wave coming in the fall. And I really think what we're going to see around the state is it's a little bit like kind of doing the wave at the stadium. We're going to see this move around the state in different ways, and there'll be hot spots that'll cool off, and then hot spots will come up again. So even as we prepare to reopen, what we're encouraging districts is to always remember you may have to close back down again. And so you need to be prepared for those eventualities, because those things may very well happen. One of the things we look at with this that makes it so difficult is the studies show at least 25 to 50% of the people in the population are asymptomatic, meaning they don't show any symptoms to this. So when we start looking at even screening ability for bringing people back into school, bringing them onto buses, what you're really screening for is only people that are symptomatic or showing signs. It's going to be very, very difficult to actually screen for people that are asymptomatic and show no symptoms. They're not going to have the fever or the cough or some of the other telltale signs to this disease. So the other thing that we look at for us is that when we try to look at trying to bring school back in session, testing is still a kind of an unknown and a known. What we know is we don't have any specific testing that's fairly immediate. This requires people to go someplace, be tested. And the other thing that we're really encouraging districts just to remember is that even if you tried to implement some kind of a policy saying, hey, we want you to have a positive test to come back to school, test is just a snapshot. So on any given day, I could go right now and I could get tested. I could come up with a negative result. Tomorrow, I could actually contract this, be asymptomatic to it, and show no signs. I have my negative test result, but I'm actually positive now. And so just know that even the testing is going to be really, really difficult and not necessarily going to be a true picture of what's going on as we move back in. What we still don't know, and some of the things that kind of cause us some concern also, is what we still don't know is whether or not people are actually developing antibodies that prevent them from getting this again. There's some research and some studies that are looking into that, but it's not definitive yet. There's also some talk that even if you develop antibodies, they may only be good for a certain period of time. So what I generally talk with my team about is that until there's actually a vaccine developed, we could really see this thing go in waves for quite a long period of time. When we look at guidance documents like we're going to be putting out related to opening again, please know that what we're doing is we're sharing our thoughts, our expertise, our experience from the different fields that we come from. It's not necessarily a directive to do these things. What we're encouraging is schools to think about what can you do? Do these things work for you? Do you have the ability to do it? Some of them you may and some of them you won't. And currently what we're doing, I'm going to go ahead and share some stuff on my screen. We've actually put together, and I have to look to my other computer here to share this, so please forgive me if I'm not looking directly at you. But what we are working on right now is some guidance documents for how we actually go back. And so we're looking at this from a lot of different perspectives. And it's really about how we deal with not only how we reopen, but then how do we deal with this on a daily basis. And this is a draft document that we've been working on. We're actually going to go back in and do some more work on this, try to get some more detail into this. But we're looking at things from the perspective of what do we do for our facilities? What do we do for transportation needs? What are we going to do for people needs? How do we address all of those things? And I'll give you some examples of those. And this document will become available on our website, and we're working on actually putting this into more of a template form that might be more useful for you guys as far as filling out and kind of having an actual plan for reopening. But when we look at some of these things as it relates to COVID-19, again, it gets pretty complicated. Ray talked about cleaning and sanitizing. And I just want to remind everybody that one of the things that we're going to have to look at training staff on is that those are actually two different processes. And many of the chemicals that will actually kill the disease that are disinfect and sanitize aren't necessarily great cleaners. And the reason that's important is, I'll just use common bleach as an example for this. Common bleach is a product that will take care of this, will kill this virus, But one of the really interesting things about bleach is that when it comes in contact with organic material such as dirt, bleach becomes inert. So if you have virus on a dirty surface and you don't clean first before you put bleach to it, the bleach may not actually kill the virus. And so in the cleaning and sanitizing, it becomes really important to know how are you doing those processes? What are you cleaning on a daily, regular basis, which Ray talked a little bit about? And more importantly, the chemicals that you're using, are you using them appropriately to the manufacturer's guidelines? I'm going to put up another document here. Let's see if I can get out of this one. So this is actually a guidance document, and I'll show you where this is on our website. We have this in our COVID-19 resource page. This is a list, an EPA-approved list of chemicals that are usable on COVID-19. One of the things I really want to bring to your attention is probably one of the most vital things is this column right here that's time on contact. And what this is talking to is that these chemicals have to be in contact with this virus for this amount of time in order for them to be effective. And so one of the things that we look at even in cleaning procedures, oftentimes, you know, our procedures are to wipe something on and either walk away or wipe it back off and clean it up. And some of these chemicals may take as long as 10 minutes in contact with the virus in order to kill it. And so it's really important when you're looking at your cleaning procedures that you understand the chemicals that you're using and what the time on contact means for those chemicals. Also, when we're looking at cleaning, like in facilities, one of the things that we're talking about and want you to consider is, do the cleaning staff need to have the personal protective equipment? And how often does that get changed out? Not to get too gross, but there's been some evidence that this particular virus does not die as it moves through the body. So as you're cleaning bathrooms, this virus actually may be still alive in those bathroom settings. And so having staff wearing personal protective equipment may become very, very important. The other thing for a facilities aspect that I said we're looking at it from a facilities aspect, a transportation aspect, and a people aspect. Another consideration on a facilities aspect would be when you start to try to serve food to kids, do you have enough space to do that to maintain social distancing if that's still a need as we move back in? Do you have alternate sites inside of the school, maybe gymnasiums, maybe outside if it's not cold and rainy, where food service may be able to take place as long as it's safe? And it could be something like sack lunches or something like that. But how do you anticipate being able to feed the population of kids that you might have in your school? And one of the things I will say, I don't know if Harris County has done this. We've had a couple of counties around the state that have actually mandated that schools will have to produce a document like the one I showed you before that shows how you're going to reopen and what you're going to do before the local health authorities will let the schools reopen. So just know that that may be coming. What we see is a lot of these counties begin to copy each other in the directives that they put out. So that may be coming for you as well. I don't know that. I'm just saying be prepared for that. So when we look at facilities, again, it gets pretty complicated. Ray alluded to a lot of that stuff. What are the chemicals we're using, time on contact? How do we do all of those things? There's much more in this guidance document that we'll have. When you look at transportation, some of the thought processes we're looking at is, can you screen before students get on buses? Would it be possible to do temperature? Again, you're only hitting the kids that are symptomatic at the time, but it at least eliminates that from getting on the bus and making the whole bus contagious. So also with buses, is there a way to do social distancing? That's one of the things that the state and even the federal government is still talking about that may be a necessity as we move back into an August reopening potentially. And is it possible to do social distancing? How do you load your buses? My experience from school, and maybe it's changed a little bit, was everybody sat wherever they wanted to. Well, in COVID-19, we may have to load from the back to the front, maintain the social distancing, exit not all at once, but actually exit with social distancing. So the other factor that we see in all of this as we start talking about those kinds of things is just timing. And for you guys run on very tight schedules, and this is going to create an influx of having to manage those schedules a little bit differently, and that those things may grow and actually be a little bit harder to manage. One of the thought processes in moving back to, and again, this won't be available for everybody, is it possible to rotate buses in and out of service? Again, this virus has some time on surface that we know about in different areas, like cloth, it's for about 24 to 48 hours, cardboard about 24 hours, some plastics up to, and metals up to about 3 days. So in a bus, if we could let it sit for 3 or 4 days, and I'm not saying that's possible, but if we could, potentially any viral effect that's on the bus is now gone, and it's not available to be picked up on the bus. Another piece that we've talked about and looked at that schools may want to think about and consider is, you guys have done a fantastic job of moving over to distance learning. And for a while, maybe that ends up having to be a component of what we do as we move back in. And is it possible, or a thought process, to actually bring, say, part of a student population in so that you can have social distancing on the bus and in the classrooms, and not bring the entire population in, and say, have a half of a campus population that maybe comes to school 1 week, the other half is distance learning, and then they swap out the following week so you can still do the check-ins with everybody. So that's another possibility from a transportation aspect and a facilities and people. When we get into the people aspect, and I'm going to go ahead and jump over to our web page here.
Jeff, while you're jumping, when is the guidance document going to be available? When do you anticipate that?
So I anticipate us having a draft piece of the document up fairly quickly, probably within the next 3 weeks. I think it'll change as we move forward and we start to see some of the new data come out related to the COVID-19, and also as we start to look at some of the feedback that we get around the data. So, and we invite that. So if you guys have any kind of information that you want to share with us related to the guidance document, please give that back to us. Again, what we're really trying to do is create some talking and thinking points around these things, not specifically, you must do this. So one of the things that we did create early on at the School Safety Center, this is our website. You guys have access to this. We have a couple of pages here that will be of interest to you, I hope, and think they will. We have a resource, kind of a COVID-19 resource guidance. And so we have some things in here when we start talking about people. We have a whole bunch of mental health resources in here that may be beneficial for thinking about how you begin to get back. What are the resources that you're able to provide? What are the resources that you may have community-wide that you can pull in? I think all of you guys are very aware of this, but just the trauma that's going to come out of this for students. And you know, it's interesting because I've heard students in some ways have actually adapted to this better than some of us have, and yet there's still these big things that are going to come up for students of lost opportunities, lost family members, lost friends, lost jobs, lost socioeconomic status, if you will. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be happening related to this also that schools are going to have to be prepared for as students start to move back in the population of how do we deal with all of this? How do we deal with the trauma, which can lead to the depression and other issues? And what are the resources available to that? And again, it may not be specifically the school, it may be pulling in some community resources as well. So this web page has a lot of things on it. There's links that has just a whole bunch of different links to documents and information that may be helpful to you. Beyond the mental health resources, there's just a ton of other stuff in here. And we hope this is helpful to you. And the other thing I've asked numerous districts that I've had one-on-one conversations with, if there's something you guys are not getting that you need, please let us know. Even if we're not the agency maybe to create that, we can get with the agency that could do that. So if there's specific guidance, specific issues that you need some assistance with or help with, we'll be happy to try to pull that up and either provide it or be able to put you in touch with whoever else can do that. One of the other things that we've talked a little bit about in the guidance document from relationship to people is even in classroom settings, even when you bring classes in, to try to minimize the activity and students interacting with each other and moving through the school. One consideration may be, instead of students changing classrooms, having staff change classrooms. It puts far less people in the hallways. It just creates less opportunity for this to contract back and forth between students. So again, thinking points, not specifically you have to do this, but are there ways to make sure that the social distancing happens in different ways and to manage that? As we know, it's going to be difficult for students to manage social distancing, particularly when you get down into the very young grades. So the other thing I want to just touch on real quick, because I get some questions related to this, and this is some other things we're working on in our guidance document. How do schools, now that we've kind of gotten out of school, how do schools get belongings back to students? What are we going to do for that? How do schools regain their technology equipment that they put out into the public space? And how do we do that without creating situations where we're creating vectors for this infection to spread? And we've also been talking a lot with the other school safety centers around the state, around the United States. And what we found is in some of the states where we have well-intentioned things that are going on, these have actually become vectors for spreading this disease. So even trying to do some of the feeding stations, if those aren't handled correctly, in states like New Jersey, they've talked very specifically with us that some of the feeding operations, they had to shut them down because they became such vectors for spreading this contagion. Also, even some of the really well-intentioned things of like the teacher parades going through neighborhoods. What they found is kids and families came out and congregated as the teachers would go by and wave to them, and they were having huge spreads in particular neighborhoods related to that. So it's how do we start to do these things and still stay connected? How do we return supplies? How do we get our supplies back? All of those kinds of things. The other thing we've been getting a lot of questions about, and I'm going to go back to another page here on our website. We also have a frequently asked questions page here. This gets updated as we get new information about these questions or as new questions come out to us. So one of the questions that I've had a lot and been fielding a whole lot is, hey, what are we doing about audits? We have an audit that's due this year in the K through 12 public school cycle. What are we doing about audits? And will the school safety center waive the audit requirements? So we have some information in here. I'll cover a little bit of that. First of all, the audit cycles are legislatively mandated. So the school safety center can't waive that. What we have done is we've reached out to the governor's office and we're having some conversations to see if that may be able to be waived at the governor's office level. If that happens, that'll be updated on our webpage here and you'll be able to see that information here as we go through it. Currently what we have done, so the audit cycle technically ends on August 31st. In the past, what we've done is we've had a reporting cycle that it starts April 15th, which most of you at your school, somebody at your school should have received notice that the reporting cycle is now open. So if you have your audit done, and we have several districts that do, you can go ahead and put all that information in and be done with that, so you don't have to worry about that in the fall when you come back. You can get through with that right now. What we have had is some districts say, hey, we haven't done our audit yet. We're still finishing that up or finalizing that. Will you extend the reporting period? We have extended the reporting period. That is something in our purview. So instead of the reporting period ending on September 15th, it will actually end on November 15th of this year. Now, that's not extending the audit cycle, it's extending the reporting. If the audit cycle gets extended, we will notify that on our frequently asked question page and highlight it in some of our material that goes out regularly to the school districts. One of the questions that comes up is, what if we can't do our audit in the way that we normally do because our schools are closed down? So there's a couple of things, and this frequently asked question really answers a lot of this. What we say is that it is a best practice always to do your audits while school is in session, so you get a full picture of what's happening. Where do doors get propped open? Does your visitor management policy work? All of those kinds of things. What's the climate like in the school? But you can conduct an audit with the populations not being in the classroom or in the schools. And again, this question answers that. You're going to miss some things, and those are things you may want to go back and take a look at later on before the next audit cycle's up, but you can conduct your audit. When you think about the audit that you do, if you utilize our template, it's a very, very lengthy Excel spreadsheet checkbox. When we ask for the reporting information, we don't go through that check sheet line by line, detail by detail. We're asking more of some high-level overview type information. And so for instance, we don't ask whether or not you completed a visitor management or an intrusion detection type of an audit. What we ask is, do you have policies in place for that in the reporting cycle? And so you can conduct your audit, you just will have some things that you'll miss based on folks not being there. So beyond the audit, the other thing that we have a lot of questions that come up right now are around emergency operation plans. And one of the functions of my group is to go in and review emergency operation plans. And we've talked for a long time about, we've been putting the process in place. Of course, when COVID-19 came out, we slowed that down a little bit because it didn't make sense to try to pull everybody's emergency operation plan in place while they were in the middle of an emergency. And so we've really looked at that. We are about to move forward, but we're changing up what we're doing in this first round of reviews, and this will be coming out fairly quickly. I say quickly, probably sometime in May. What we're really trying to do this first round of reviews for emergency operation plans is we're going to take what we're calling a 10,000-foot overview look for the most part at emergency operation plans, and we're just going to look at a few highlights that were part of the Chapter 37 legislation that came out in Senate Bill 11 in 2019. So we're going to look at a few highlights. We're not even asking you, we're going to send you information if we see some deficiencies in that, but we're not even asking you to interact back and forth with us to correct that at this point. What we are going to also look at, though, and look at a little bit more in depth, is we're going to look at, and I will go back to my screen share again, we are going to look at, do you have your, inside of your emergency operation plan, do you have a continuity of operation plan, and do you have a communicable disease annex? And we are going to look at these a little bit in depth. And what we're hoping to do is help schools get ready for this opening again in August. Through what you've done up till now, you guys have so much good information about what works, what doesn't work, how we could have done things better, what we can do differently, what we did fantastic, and what we need to repeat. And so we're just trying to make sure that districts are ready as we open up, because again, we see this potentially coming in waves, and that they have both the continuity of operation plans available and their communicable disease indexes. And those are available in our resource page here. This is our continuity of operation plan template. So you can download that here and pull that up. And then we also have in here our find it here. We also have our communicable disease annex right here. And so these are templates that you guys can utilize to be able to prepare these things. So these things, as we do this 10,000-foot overview of the emergency operation plans, these two items are the things that we will give you in-depth comments about, go back and forth with you around to see if there's any needs or deficiencies or gaps in those plans. We've already been doing that with some districts. We've had several districts that have asked us just to review stuff and have been forwarding that to us. So again, those are really to try to help and make sure everybody is prepared for as we move forward into the fall. We will be doing deep dive reviews into emergency operation plans, but our goal is to finish this 10,000-foot overview. And honestly, with the number of districts that we have, with what we're seeing so far, we're seeing that as probably being about an 8 to 10 month, maybe even a year-long process. As we move back into doing the deeper dives, then we'll go back and forth in all of the aspects of the plan to ensure that it's a viable plan and available for districts to utilize. One of the things that we're working on right now as a team, we've been doing reviews of emergency operation plans for several months now. We've been refining our review process and creating a checklist for this. One of the things that we will make available, and it'll come out with any comments that we send back to you related to the 10,000-foot overview, we will be sending out the checklist that we'll be utilizing to do the deep dives, which will just kind of give you a heads up on some of the things that we'll be looking for. So I've said a whole lot, and I've given a whole lot of information very quickly, and I apologize for dumping on you guys with all of that, but I'm happy to answer any questions or at least attempt to.
Well, this is going to be an effort, right? Going back in. And so like, I really appreciate you coming on and breaking it down for us into facilities, transportation, and people, and understanding that there's things that we need to understand about the time of contact of substances, serving of food, rotating of buses in and out. That was a great thought. And the hybrid school setting, where it may be a little hybrid. I know that I've been looking in my chat and sharing different things. One of the great things about our emergency ops board is the fact that we do get together and collaborate. And I would like to really promote our practitioners corner. And as Scott Hudson was commenting to the fact of the EOP for the COOP plan and the communicative disease annex, he's had them in place since before spring break. And Scott, if that's something that we can get you to do in a practitioner's corner to try to get everybody more familiar with it and some things that you've noticed, if you don't mind, if you want to come off mute and talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Sure, Janice. As you know, going through this COVID-19 pandemic, it's a fluid situation, and but be happy to talk with you to discuss possibly doing that.
Okay, because we're better together, and so that's great. And so I will follow up with you on getting information. Maybe it's something we just share out on the repository, or if it does require something to get on a webinar or something, that would be great too.
Sure. Yep.
Anybody having specific questions for Jeff? Yeah,
I was going to say real quick, just to Scott's question and even to your comment. So as you guys know, we've had to cancel all of our in-person training like just about everybody else in the world right now, but we are moving a lot of our training to online formats. In our emergency operation plan class, we're going to specifically concentrate on the basic plan in the first class. That should be up and running sometime in May, June. We are also putting together a couple of workshops. I say a couple, we're putting together 2 different workshops that'll be done multiple times that are specifically for continuity of operation and communicable disease annexes. And those will probably be coming out sometime late May, early June, where we'll actually do live webinar workshops and walk people through our templates and explain what needs to be in the plans, how the plans get created, those types of things.
Great, great. Any more questions for Jeff from the forum out there?
And if I can, I'm going to share my screen one more time. I'll put up my contact information. If anybody needs to get in touch with me, you can feel free to do that. It has my office number and my email in there. And then it has of course, our website address where you can find a lot of that information that I just shared.
Okay. So I will make sure that we get that out in our information that I sent in the email as well.
I'll take that back down so you can.
Okay, no problem. I'm checking time. Okay, we're good on time. I just wanted to offer some information from us that we're doing, and we're absolutely going to be working in conjunction with the Texas School Safety Center. We are also pushing out information that, that we are collecting. On the line, we have my other part, Sierra Nickerson. She's our climate and culture specialist and deals with a lot of the stuff that we're going to be dealing with as far as trauma and the returning. And she's put together a COVID collection of resources for schools responding to COVID-19. I have the URL of that. I'll include that in the email as well. I don't know if Sierra's still online. Do you have anything that you want to say about this one?
I'm here. No, it's just a collection of things. I know that you all probably have seen many different webinars and toolkits and websites and articles that people have been posting in response to COVID-19 and things that can be resourceful for our campuses. And so instead of having them kind of piecemeal, I've collected them and put them together in a very organized way. And so even if a webinar was missed, I'll add that information, the transcripts of that webinar. That would be helpful. It's anything from mindfulness, infographics, articles, various websites or toolkits that have SEL curriculum embedded, or things that'll be really useful for your counselors or for your staff when you have your professional development or your staff meetings and you want to do some quick check-ins with your staff, things like that. In addition, we're going to be uploading some mindfulness videos to our website. And so it'll be a robust collection of information that could be useful for your campuses.
Okay.
And it's updated on a regular basis as
Right.
well. And I'll put the document in our chat so you can go ahead and download it, or you can access it here as well.
And that's one thing that we'll talk to, and when Julia wraps up, she can talk to it even more, is we've been working on updating our website that you can access through hcde-texas.org and go to Safe and Secure Schools. We're working on getting that updated and links out to other places, as well as, you know, connection to the Texas School Safety Center, of course, with all that wealth of information that they have out there. And then other things that we see locally that will be important to you as well. Just letting you know on upcoming events, we're going to be doing our radio checks. We're going to be starting having that for April. We missed March, but we're going to have the April radio check on April 30th. And I'll be connecting with you guys on that. And we're developing virtual workshops in conjunction. Texas School Safety Center is the driver of that. But we had some things in place. So Michael Dorn was supposed to be tomorrow. But I talked to Michael, and he's working on creating a virtual environment for a lot of things that he presents. So we're going to be working with him on that. We've also been working with the U.S. Department of Education for some threat assessment workshops, EOP workshops that they had in place, and they're looking at making those virtual and available as well. There was a really different one that they had that I thought now is more important than ever. It's resilient strategies for educators. And it's helping educators focus on that self-care and what you need to do in an emergency and out of an emergency, how to take care of yourself and get back. And I think that may take on, and we were talking about this before COVID as it relates to active shooter and all the other things that we were talking about previously. And I spoke with Amanda from the U.S. Department of Education yesterday, and that one's becoming even more relevant. So they're ramping that one up. So those are some things that you can expect from us. But also just understanding that I appreciate the connection that I've made with Jeff, and I want to make sure that we continue to grow that relationship, because I want to make sure that we understand what's coming from them, from their training centers coming out as well. I also noticed.
Janet?
Yes. Rich?
Oh, I was just going to ask a question to the group. If any of the group has talked about or started any of their procedures at their campuses with regards to either custodial cleaning, or they've had to change that, or they're doing something different, or what their thoughts are for the future with regards to their campuses.
Okay. Yeah, we can absolutely. I wanted to offer that as something, and also I wanted to see if our OEM, Office Emergency Management, I know that I saw Kristen Clark was on here earlier. I don't know if she's still on, but just as Rich said, this forum was created so that you guys can share information. So as it relates to your custodial staff and your cleaning, does anybody have any information to share? And we will continue to provide platforms for the share. We're going to be putting, like in the message that I sent out earlier, there was a link where you can go in and ask questions previous to this event. I will put that also on our website, where we will create an environment for you to put questions and also strategies and information that you're doing on campus that we can share out with other people. Because we're just not always looking to give you answers. You guys are in the trenches. You have a lot of creative things that you're doing that would be great to share with our community. So feel free to do that. Okay, I'm just looking for any other questions as it relates to this.
Is Christina Clark Christina, are you still on the meeting? Maybe she's off. She was our partner from OEM, and I wanted to give her an opportunity to speak, but maybe she's already off. I don't. Let me see if I see her.
Yeah, I checked, I didn't see her. And Julia, if you, at this time, I just wanted to let her know where feedback is important to us. I'm going to email you the information that we had in the call. I will also email you the recording or a link to the recording. And also in that email will be a survey. And if you guys really complete that survey for us and give us information on what you like, what we need to add, what would you like to see in the future, we'd appreciate that so much. That allows us to make these sessions more beneficial to you when we are together. And at this time, I want to turn it over to my director, Julia Andrews. And if she has any other things that she wants to update us on, it's in your court, Julia.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Janice for putting this together today. The information is very, very beneficial. Thank you to Texas School Safety Center and Rich for your wealth of information this morning. We have been working very closely with our community partners. So as we receive information, we will make sure to continue to push it out to you all. I know one of the biggest concerns we've been hearing from a few people is graduations and what that looks like. But I'm excited and kind of sad to see that most districts have gone to a virtual graduation. So I'm glad that we're keeping safe, but I am sad about our seniors who will not be able to physically walk across the stage. So as we get more information and updates, just like this morning, they're going to announce at 3 o'clock, as Janice stated, a mandatory mask for all county. We also are looking into how we can provide through our Choice Partners Cooperative vendors who can provide masks and cleaning solutions. So if that's something that your district is interested in, our contact would be Rich, and his information is there. So we have a co-op with several companies, but right now there's a shortage everywhere. So as we get information, or if you have the need, please reach out to us and we will filter it if we don't have the answer to get you the correct answer. Let me see.
Julia, this is Stephanie. I just wanted to let you guys know that there is a listing of those vendors on the Choice Partners website.
Oh, so, perfect. We can send that out as well. We will send that out our notes today. Thank you, Stephanie, on how to access that. Humble ISD when Harvey took. Please, thank you. This was from Humble. The importance of your leadership staying healthy. Absolutely. And our teachers. I've been seeing the parades, teachers working till like late in the early hours of the morning, putting in lessons. This was similar to Harvey, but it's more impactful because it's the whole country. And as we take on some of those White House calls that are every Wednesday, they are really trying to come up with an action plan to be open. The biggest concern I know that we have throughout Harris County is how will we protect our students once we get back? And so as we get that type of information, we'll pass it on. I know we talked about social distancing on the school buses and in the cafeteria. I think that's just gonna look completely different than what we've ever been used to. So we get information, but I think I want to encourage everyone also on this call to make sure we're practicing some brain breaks and mental health breaks. I know a lot of you all are working round the clock nonstop. So please take some time to make sure that you guys are doing well and some family time. So thank you all so much for the call. I don't have anything else. Again, thank you, Janice, for putting all of this together. This was awesome.
Okay, no problem. This is what we're built for, right? We were built to take care of each other, and I think we're doing that in an amazing way. It gets overwhelming, but I think we have some wonderful resources that are coming out. People have asked about the mask, and like Julia and Stephanie De Los Santos, as our client engagement person, came on our Choice Partners group. We will list that information on how to get different types of supplies, how to get access to, I'll give you access to what Rich said. I'm just kind of going through my list here. And the other great wealth of information that was shared by Jeff. And I cannot thank you guys enough, both of you gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to end the call. I'm going to keep on schedule with our 11 o'clock. Go out and have a great day. Enjoy the earth. It's getting a break from us driving all over the place. Take some time and enjoy yourself. All right?
Thank you. Be safe.
Be safe.